Driss Ghali is not your typical critic of immigration. Born in Morocco and raised in the Islamic faith, he brings a unique perspective to the table. His book, From Diversity to Separatism, The Clash of Civilizations, Here and Now, has sent shockwaves through intellectual circles. Ghali's central argument is as bold as it is controversial. Mass migration from Islamic countries to Europe is a recipe for disaster. Ghali doesn't mince words. He argues that multiculturalism, often touted as a progressive ideal, is nothing more than a charade. In his view, it only benefits the elites, those who live in gated communities and send their children to private schools. For ordinary people, those who live and work alongside newcomers, multiculturalism is an unbearable reality, creating tension, division, and fear. Ghali's critique goes beyond the typical right-wing talking points. He delves into the heart of Islamic societies, arguing that Islam acts as a collective superego, a force that maintains order and prevents societal collapse. He points to the tribal nature of many Islamic countries where loyalty to clan trumps national identity. In these societies, Islam, with its strict moral code, acts as a glue holding things together. This analysis, while unsettling to some, is crucial to understanding Ghali's thesis. He argues that North African societies, steeped in centuries of conflict and instability, have developed a deep-seated mistrust of institutions. This cultural conditioning, he claims, makes it extremely difficult for North African immigrants to integrate into European societies, which are built on trust, cooperation, and civic engagement. Ghali doesn't shy away from pointing out what he sees as the failures of multiculturalism. He argues that instead of fostering integration, it has led to the creation of parallel societies where immigrants live in cultural enclaves, clinging to their traditions and resisting assimilation. This self-segregation, he warns, is a breeding ground for extremism and resentment. He reserves some of his harshest criticism for what he sees as the intellectual stagnation of North Africa. He attributes this in part to a lack of language mastery, arguing that without a strong command of languages like English and French, North Africans are cut off from the global exchange of ideas. This, he believes, has led to a dearth of innovation and a reliance on outdated modes of thinking. Ghali's most controversial claim is perhaps his assertion that many immigrants choose not to assimilate. He argues that they prefer the comfort and familiarity of their own communities to the challenges of integrating into a new culture. This, he believes, is a recipe for social fragmentation and ultimately, separatism. He also tackles the sensitive issue of violence, particularly within immigrant communities. Ghali doesn't shy away from connecting this violence to the cultural baggage that some immigrants bring with them. He points to the view of women as possessions, a perspective that he argues is deeply ingrained in some cultures and often ignored by well-meaning but naive Westerners. Ghali's analysis, while provocative, is not without its flaws. Critics argue that he paints too broad a brush, essentializing entire cultures and ignoring the diversity of experiences within immigrant communities. They point to the many success stories of integration, of immigrants who have embraced their new homelands and contributed greatly to their adopted societies. However, even Ghali's detractors acknowledge that he raises important and often uncomfortable questions about the limits of multiculturalism and the challenges of integrating large numbers of people from vastly different cultures. His book serves as a stark reminder that immigration is not a simple issue, and that good intentions alone are not enough to ensure its success. Ghali's proposed solution to the problems he identifies is perhaps the most radical aspect of his book. He calls for a two-tiered citizenship system in France, with full citizenship reserved for those who fully assimilate to French culture and values. Those who do not, he argues, should be granted a lesser status, with fewer rights and privileges. This proposal has been met with outrage by many, who see it as discriminatory and a betrayal of the values of equality and fraternity that France holds dear. Ghali, however, is unapologetic, arguing that such drastic measures are necessary to preserve French identity and prevent the country from fracturing along cultural lines. From Diversity to Separatism is a challenging and often unsettling book. It forces us to confront difficult questions about identity, belonging, and the limits of tolerance. Ghali's analysis, while flawed in some respects, offers a valuable counterpoint to the often simplistic narratives surrounding immigration and multiculturalism. Whether one agrees with Ghali's conclusions or not, his book serves as a timely reminder that we are living in an age of mass migration, and that the choices we make today will have profound consequences for generations to come. Ghali's warning, however controversial, deserves to be heard. The future of Europe may depend on it.